So you take first watch and shoot better, or they're gonna eat your liver out.
Nintendo Switch Online has a lot of great retro games in its library. This is true, but there are a lot more retro games lurking on the system if you know where to look, not on their subscription channels. I'm going to go through system by system, find a few fun ones and tell you about them. Some are good, some are great, most are spooky. Let's start with the Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES, and Zombie Nation, released in 1990. It's a side-scrolling shooter where you play as a disembodied head that shoots hearts out of your mouth against your enemies. You destroy everything in your path. It's basically a combination of Silver Surfer and Rampage. You have to rescue these bodies hurtling out of the buildings you destroy. They're zombie hostages. Yes, zombie hostages. It's a slice of NES history, and it has a great art style. Just look at these waterfalls of blood. The Switch version comes packed with the original Japanese version of the game, which I like a little bit more as you play as an Oni demon mask, just a little more colorful. Look, you also fight against the Statue of Liberty as a boss, and it turns into a giant Medusa head. Next up, Fantasy Zone. One of my favorites from the Sega Master System days. This is the arcade port from 1986, the best way to play the game as it was intended. Unlike a lot of other side-scrolling shooters of the day, Fantasy Zone allowed you to go back and forth throughout the entire stage before taking on the boss. Also, the levels had a really wild design. One of the best Super Nintendo games you'll ever find is Zombies Ate My Neighbors from 1993. This is a LucasArts Konami run-and-gun game where zombies have taken over your town and you've got to protect the cheerleaders, the guys doing a cookout, the dogs, even the babies. The game is best played with a second player, and there was also a Sega Genesis version. The Nintendo Switch version comes packed with a quasi-sequel called Ghoul Patrol. It wasn't as good, but hey, 2 games packed in one, can't argue with that. Panorama Cotton was a 1994 Sega Mega Drive game that was released in Japan, but didn't make its way to North America until the Switch version. And this game is an absolute psychedelic blast. It's an over-the-shoulder rail shooter that moves you in various directions ahead or up and down. There are a bunch of games in this series that are all side-scrolling shooters, but this one really showed what the Mega Drive and Genesis was capable of. I've also got to give a shout out to another Mega Drive game that didn't make its way out of Asia, Glaylancer. Yes, that's an English name. I know side-scrolling shoot-em-ups are really big right now, and boy, did this 1992 game offer a serious challenge, and it's one of the best looking the system had to offer. When it comes to the Sega CD, one of its earliest full-motion video games was 1993's Double Switch, written by Flint Dille, known for Transformers, G.I. Joe, and 5 Goes West. Music by Thomas Dolby from the Howard the Duck soundtrack, and Corey Haim, who I always confuse with Corey Feldman.
Hi, my name is Eddie. I need your help. This is my building, and since the neighborhood really sucks, I've built all these traps and security systems to protect the people who live here.
Well, that's not an unhinged thing to say at all. It's a very similar game to another Sega CD title you've probably heard of, Night Trap, but they've made it a bit easier to see what's going on in all the rooms. Is it cheesy? Hell yes, it is.
But I don't like anybody snooping around my place, okay? This is Alex's room on the 2nd floor. She's a new girl in town. She says she's a journalist. I think she likes me.
If you didn't like Night Trap, you probably won't like this. I found it best to play this with family or friends, with the same vibe like you're all watching a bad movie for a laugh. And they're all shouting advice at you like the audience from Price is Right. Sega was at it again with full-motion video games a year later with Corpse Killer, which is undoubtedly the best 32X game on Nintendo Switch because it is the only game on Nintendo Switch. But that's about to change. This is the Corpse Killer 25th Anniversary Edition, made by the same people who made Double Switch and Night Trap, although the game part of this game is actually a gallery shooter, but most of the effort went into the video scenes anyway because this is the actual gameplay. The zombies just float at you with little to no connection to anything. Is that zombie doing Tai Chi?
The electro posse you're about to face is composed completely of electrocuted mass murderers. Where did they dig these guys up?
The main bad guy is played by Vincent Schiavelli, who was in a bunch of stuff from my childhood, from Star Trek TNG to Batman Returns. And they also got the big skull clown mask from Batman Returns too. Ah. This is a pretty shallow gameplay experience, but it is one of the few Switch games where the Joy-Con controls are actually better than using a real controller. You can treat it like an arcade experience if you have a few friends over and have some drinks in you, if that's your thing. You can also play a drinking game where you take a shot every time Winston says brah.
Cover me, brah. I'm going in.
Looking at another shooting game that makes good use of the Joy-Con controllers is the remake of The House of the Dead. It was an arcade game available on the Sega Saturn in 1998. It is a shooter on rails that is also very intentionally a B-movie in video game form. Now, just like Corpse Killer, the game is way more fun when you use the Joy-Cons. There's also a remake of the sequel that just came out, House of the Dead 2, but I'd avoid that like a hungry zombie at your door. When it comes to the Nintendo 64, you can't go wrong with Doom 64. It is a great port of the 1997 original, but now with updated controls like a modern shooter, so if you're like me and you've been conditioned by Call of Duty and Battlefield, this will feel very natural. If you like the old school PC Doom games, this one is right up there with them. My pick for a Dreamcast era game is Zero Gunner 2. It's a bit of a cheat, but still well worth your time. Now what this is a from-the-ground-up remake of the original Zero Gunner from 2001. It's a multi-directional shooter that plays and looks great. You have your elaborate backgrounds that don't really impact the gameplay but still look cool. The action is fast and furious, great power-ups, one threat after the next. The bosses would even give the Transformers a run for their money. You have several vehicles you can choose from, the game's a bit different depending on which one you pick, and the gameplay is also very addictive. Finally, the GameCube. Now, Nintendo just started this service a couple months ago, and given how they tend to drip feed games onto their online channels, it's going to take a while for anything much to show up here. But one of my favorite GameCube games has already been on the system for quite some time, and that is Capcom vs. SNK 2, Mark of the Millennium 2001 EO. I think I said that in the right order. Came out in 2002 on the GameCube and other platforms. I actually got this from the last video store I ever went to. RIP Video Stop. And I was renting it so many times, they were just like, hey, do you want to buy it for a few extra bucks? And I was like, yes, I do. They went out of business shortly after, so it looks like I lucked out on that one. Anyway, this is two fighting game companies coming head-to-head, Capcom, SNK. Got 48 characters. You can do it 3-on-3 like King of Fighters, or just 1-on-1 for a quick match. It's a great game. Kind of the end of the era for like all the sprite-based work. We had really elaborate CG backgrounds that would come to see a lot today. Anyway, here I picked my guy, Ryu. That's a boring pick, but that's who I usually go with versus Guile. So yeah. There's quite a few other great games, retro games. They're all on there. You know, your Final Fantasies, your Mega Mans, Jurassic Park. They're all there. What are some of your favorites? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see ya on the next video. Oh wait, Guile's about to go down. Oh, come on, just one more. Yeah.
Hey, now you're making me look bad. Screw up again and you're gone.